morning. Welcome to the Big Questions, live from Manchester. I'm Nicky Campbell. Yesterday, the rally staged by the English Defence League in Denmark to launch a European counter-jihad movement was attended by only 300 people from 5 countries. 4,000 people demonstrated against them. But experts on far-right movements said the meeting had more strategic significance than its numbers suggest. Our first big question: is Britain too complacent about the far right? Tommy Robinson, the EDL's leader, says he's going to continue to expose the threat from Islamism to the culture of the UK and Europe. The average age of turning to prostitution is just 15, despite it being illegal to pay for sex with somebody younger than 18. She looked older is a defence, unless the girl is 13 or younger. So critics say the age limit needs to be raised to 21 to protect young people. Our next big question: should it be illegal to pay for sex with a young adult? Former Cole girl Helen Wood says it would have stopped her going on the game at 19, which resulted in a notorious liaison with Wayne Rooney. Welcome everybody to the big questions this morning. Now, yesterday's meeting of European anti-Islamist groups in Aarhus, organised by the English Defence League, was judged a damp squib in the papers this morning. But the thousands who staged a counter-demonstration think we should not underestimate them. They say Europe needs to learn from the horrendous killing spree by Norwegian right-winger Anders Behring Breivik, whose trial begins in 2 weeks. Is Britain too complacent about the far right? Tommy Robinson, the leader of the EDL, is here. And on a previous rally, this was at Tower Hamlets, you said, I just want to see exactly where you're coming from here. You said, every single Muslim watching this, on 7/7, you got away with killing and maiming British citizens. You got away with it. You had better understand that we have built a network from one end of this country to the other end, and we will not tolerate it. And the Islamic community will feel the full force of the English Defence League if we see any of our citizens killed, maimed or hurt on British soil again.
Yep. Basically, that we will highlight it, as we've done from day one, peacefully protesting, bring it to the media attention and put pressure on the Islamic community to deal with the Islamists within the community.
That doesn't sound peaceful, that sounds very threatening.
Well, it wasn't, it was peaceful. It is peaceful. And it's not a threat, it's a promise. We will continue to do what we're doing. The Islamic community have got Islamist organisations in every one of them. They're not dealing with them. We now have more Islamic extremists in Britain than we've ever had, and it's spreading like a wildfire.
What would you mean by full force?
By full force, taken to the streets in as many numbers as we can.
What do you mean by every single Muslim watching this?
I mean every single Muslim, it is your duty to deal with the extremists within your community. Stop brushing it under the carpet, pretending it's not there.
Now, people say you're just a bunch of thugs. You came out the football thug culture. When you headbutted a fellow EDL member, Alan McKee, what was all that about?
Well, about was it was Combat 18. I stood up on stage.
Right.
We had a breaking point in our movement where we had neo-Nazis trying to attach themselves to what we stand for. So I took the opportunity to stand on stage, call them out, name them. When I got off stage, I was confronted by people wearing Combat 18 T-shirts. At which point I headbutted him, because he was Sikh Highland and shouting abuse. And then when I got back to the coach, I was confronted by another 30 Nazis. I get many death threats on a weekly basis by Nazis. We've done more to confront Nazism and Islamism.
So are you an anti-Nazi movement?
I am. Yeah, we are. Yeah. And Islamism and Nazism are opposite sides of the same coin. They're identical. They're both fascist ideologies. But Nazism's been defeated. Islamism hasn't.
Well, it's interesting because Nick Griffin from the BNP described you and your organisation as good-hearted morons.
Nick Griffin, yeah, that's coming from Nick Griffin, yeah?
Well, he likes what you do. He said, and I'll go on with the quote, he said it in February 2011, they're trying to do something, he says of you, and the good thing is they've politicised a whole generation of youngsters. And you used to be in the BNP, didn't you? Yeah,
in 2004. When you drown and you clutch at straws. We looked around. Before I joined the BNP, I didn't know non-white people couldn't join. I was a member for 12 months on the leak list. If you check the leak list, I didn't renew my membership in 2005. And from him...
You thought the BNP was a multiracial organisation?
Well, I didn't know that non-white people couldn't join it. I didn't know Nick Griffin used to be leader of National Front. I didn't know he was a Nazi. And for him saying we're morons, I watched him on Question Time. So
good-hearted morons?
Yeah, well, I watched him on Question Time, so we'll know who the good-hearted moron is.
Well, Ansar, how dangerous do you believe the EDL are?
I think Stephen or Tommy or whatever and his organisation are extremely dangerous. I think they peddle hate, they peddle misconceptions, they peddle myths at a time when we've seen spikes in Islamophobia, race hate. We see attacks across the United Kingdom.
Have you been threatened?
I've been threatened many times on Twitter. We have live cases. I've been threatened with violence against myself. But this isn't about me. This is about a broader issue, which is, as a society, we have your organisation, Tommy, Stephen, which is peddling hate, which is hurting, alienating. You are denigrating a whole community. Over and over again, it's been made very, very clear by the leadership within your organisation. This is about all Muslims. This is about Islam, not Islamism. And I'm sure you couldn't even define Islamism.
I've grown up in Luton. Some of the best people I've met through growing up are Muslim. Some of my mates are Muslim. You had Butch Vassell on this show last week. I was out with his son on Thursday night, OK? I don't hate all Muslims. Muslims are the first victims of Islam and extremist Islam. That's what's happening. I don't hate Muslims at all. And I've said that from day one. When it comes to peddling hate, you just said you've been threatened on Twitter. OK, well, I've had an armed guard for my family for a week. I've had threats to decapitate my children's head. I've been in hospital with bruising on the brain. I've had 8 stitches in my lip. I get confronted and attacked on a weekly basis. So I don't need anyone to tell me about being threatened and where it comes to from being threatened.
No answer.
Do you not think, for a second, that you are part of an organisation, and your organisation, you were in Denmark yesterday,
yes,
and you are bedfellows with people who are saying that we want to outlaw the Quran, we want to outlaw the hijab, we want to deport Muslims from Europe, we want to exclude them, we want to pay them to have governments send them out of Europe. You are trying to become now a soft face which is appeasing hatred against Muslims and Islamophobia.
Let me ask you something. The people that share, to a greater or lesser extent, some of the concerns that Tommy attempts to articulate, do they not count?
Yeah, I think the concerns are important, and I think we have a major problem in this country, which is there has been no proper debate about what is the nature of Islam. Islam, as far as my understanding is concerned, and almost every Muslim I've met, Islam is inclusive, it supports women's rights, it gave women's...
Wahhabi sects of Islam? Wahhabism?
I have no idea what that...
Extremist sects, Saudi-funded sects. They're peaceful.
This is the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
This is the United Kingdom. Yeah. We're talking about Muslims and Islam in the United Kingdom.
We are
inclusive. Hold on a second. We are inclusive. We're tolerant and supportive and encouraging of other faiths. In Islam, it says La ikraha fi din. That means there's no compulsion in religion. So Islam is not about oppression. It's actually about providing freedom for people and freedom from fear. Fear, the kind of fear that your organisation peddles.
Fear that Islam peddles towards us in many ways. And you're saying this. There'll be thousands of people, millions of people sitting at home from working class backgrounds who live in towns like Luton Town who don't see it integrating, who don't see it as being peaceful, who see hostility. My children...
Sorry, who don't see what as integrating?
Islam. It's not integrating society.
So this is an Islamic problem, not an Islamist problem.
No,
so you're not talking... you are not talking about political extremism. You are talking about Muslims generally.
No,
and you've said it now again.
I'm talking about Islam. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about Islam is failing to integrate. If you look across Europe...
But there are millions... Can I just say, there are millions of people who perfectly well integrate. You think all Muslims, do you not, are like Anjem Choudhury and that mob?
How can you just say that? I've just told you.
It's the same as somebody assuming that all white people are like you.
How can you just tell me?
Not.
How can you just tell me that I think all Muslims are like Anjem Choudhury when I've just said some of the best people through growing up I've met are Muslim. Some of my best mates through growing up were Muslim. Yeah, Islam. Islam is in a 7th century ideology. It's not just me that thinks it's failing. Every single... The fastest...
Well, hang on, let him finish.
The fastest growing political parties in every single country in Europe are anti-Islamist political parties. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. People are fed up with what's going on. Islam needs to evolve, it needs to modernise, and it's not... You can't call me a racist or fascist for picking out problems within the Islamic ideology.
Matt Goodwin, how significant are the EDL? Are they, in a way, changing the discourse in this country?
Well, they are a significant movement and they're representing concerns and grievances that are in society. I think, on the other hand, probably lots of people who are watching the show may feel concerned about the way in which organisations like the English Defence League tend to have a lot of slippage in the way that they talk about Islam. So an organisation that started talking about militant Islamism now openly talks about Muslims in general. So let's just...
talk about Islam again.
Well, OK, but let's just be absolutely clear.
We have to be very precise in our terminology, because it's a sensitive issue.
Let's be absolutely clear. When we look at the survey evidence and we look at all of the research that's been done, the vast majority of Muslims in this country do not endorse terrorism or suicide bombing. The vast majority of Muslims in this country feel strongly attached to their country and their neighbourhood. Okay, the vast majority of Muslims in this country do not endorse things like honour killings that you're...
martial law.
This is okay. So here's the problem.
Under Sharia law, Muslim women are treated second-rate citizens.
Here's
they
the
get 50%
problem.
less of a man.
Well,
they
I'm
have
a
their
Muslim woman. I'm not a second-rate citizen.
No, but you'll get 50% less than that of a man in a Sharia law court. Well, that's not on in British. Women have fought for decades for equal rights in Britain. Muslim women.